So lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs are delivering their closing arguments right now in the rap mogul's sex trafficking and racketeering trial. The defense trying to raise reasonable doubt before the jury of 8 men and 4 women, arguing that Cassie Ventura and a woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane were not sex trafficking victims, but instead long-term girlfriends who willingly participated in these drug-fueled sexual marathons with male prostitutes. Prosecutors allege that Combs was the leader of a criminal enterprise who relied on an inner circle to help get drugs, cash for escorts, and to keep Cassie and Jane in line. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all the charges and denies any wrongdoing. Civil trial attorney Tre Lovell joins me now for more. All right, so Combs' lawyer told the jury the case isn't about sex trafficking or racketeering, but a case of domestic violence, which Combs isn't charged with. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, and that's the argument. This is the government invading your bedroom. This is a guy who had an exotic sexual lifestyle. He likes sex, and that's what this is about. And they're taking apart the different predicate acts. They're saying kidnapping. There was no kidnapping involved. People were working for Combs. They had to be places where they didn't want to be. You jurors, you're sitting here for hours. Do you feel kidnapped because of your civic duty? There's no evidence that he did bombed Kid Cudi's car with the arson factor. The distribution of drugs, it was recreational use, doesn't rise to the level of a predicate crime. So they're going after one by one and disassembling every element that the government spent 5 hours yesterday trying to prove.
So the defense closing is notably light on evidence compared to the prosecution's closing yesterday. What are your thoughts on that?
And that's not unusual, because it's a defense's job not necessarily to put on evidence that your guy didn't do it, but to show there's a lack of evidence that he did. So they're going to spend their time, taking apart the prosecution's case, looking at the evidence presented and showing why it doesn't rise to the level of a predicate crime, why it doesn't rise to a criminal enterprise, why there's no, force or coercion, rather it's all consent, thus there's no sex trafficking. These were sex workers, not prostitutes, so it's not transportation to engage in prostitution. It's about taking apart the evidence that the prosecution presented and showing, it doesn't prove the elements, thus as a definition, it's reasonable doubt.
All right. We're going to follow this to the very end, and the end is getting close. Tre, thank you. For more on the trial, you can also catch our show, Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy. It airs every night, 5:30 p.m. right here on ABC News Live. Also, you can check out Brian Buckmeyer's podcast, Bad Rap, the case against Diddy, wherever you listen to your podcasts.